So, Megan, we spent 45 minutes on working on this problem. I would love for you to, explain what we did.
Yeah, thank you. So a little bit about the problem first. So we have Anna here. She's asking that a question about being able to select multiple items that are within a list, which could have potentially thousands of results. She wants to do two different things. One is actually check them and be able to execute some sort of action, or preview that item ahead of time so that she can decide whether that item should be checked or not checked as part of the batch actions. So this was a very interesting question, and she also included a couple options and ideas as part of her question, some preliminary wireframes. So Benoit, what we did first was we chatted about the question, and there was a bit of context that we weren't 100% sure of, so we set our own thoughts there, brought up a couple different things, and then we dove in and explored a couple options and solutions based on what we were thinking.
Yeah. So we end up on what solution exactly?
So I'll take us through this journey here. Maybe if you scroll up a little bit. The first thing we looked at was Anna brought this idea of both a detail view and a table view. Now, the first thing I wanted to just check into was why not use the table view? Of course, Anna has some ideas and workflows that we might not have context on, so that's why we continued further. In the first solution, we assume, okay, if table view is a possibility, that's pretty cool because you can sort tables, you can filter, and tables usually have a lot of information already. There's a couple columns. You'll be able to check things off and then execute the actions. The first thing that we started thinking about, though, was she has a reason to not use a table. What is that? Maybe the content is quite heavy. So underneath, if you just scroll up a little bit. Yeah, so we tried this drop-down version. Expanding collapsing row. Here we start to think of the preview as something a lot more complex, not just looking at a couple different columns, but there's maybe a ton of data, maybe some graphs, and we're just looking at one row and deciding, is this part of the group or not? So you could expand collapse that particular row and then check it off. So next, we explored outside of the whole table idea. We just tried to explore the table as a starting point. Our next one, if we just scroll over, I think to the right. I think it's on the right side. Yeah. So this is kind of based on what Anna had originally, and we're taking her idea here, and essentially she has a panel on the right side that shows a preview of that list item. So right now we're not touching into the sorting and filtering, which is a point that we would potentially, if we had more information, want to keep in the back of our heads because there's thousands. But here the priority is really, how do I select something or preview something and these two things don't conflict with each other? So, yeah. So on the left, we have the checkbox, and on the right, we have some sort of trigger. It could be an icon, a label, radio button we talked about. It could be any sort of thing. This would be a really interesting point to actually user test. And at least the user has two distinct locations and interactions that they can click on or hover on or interact with in some capacity to do two different actions. So again, putting to mind, top of mind, not wanting to conflict two different functionalities together.